What's up, guys? On this side of the internet, I've seen a few masculinity guru content creators speak about not just content creators, but also maybe their followers and other guys in the comments and so on. Talk about how, as a man, we don't need any adulation. We don't need any praise. We don't need respect. That society doesn't need to give that to us. That's okay. And when the time comes, when shit hits the fan, we'll be there. And we'll show them what they took for granted. Now, I partly agree with that message, but they're missing the bigger picture here. They're missing something very important. Yeah, as men, you don't need the world to tell you how needed you are and how great you are, right? You could leave that to the women. The problem is with modern day Western society is that it goes out of its way to disrespect men. At every opportunity it gets, it wants to insult us. Disrespect. Belittle us. Make us feel not needed, worthless, and so on. So what these guys don't understand is that there are so many men that feel disrespected at every single corner that they wouldn't want to help when shit hits the fan. When there's a damsel in distress, there's a lot of guys that would just, oh, you wanted equality, you deal with it yourself, sort of attitude. I think, I don't know the exact numbers on this, but I remember seeing some Pew polls on this. The vast majority of British men, if Britain went to war, they wouldn't fight. They wouldn't want to fight. And the reasons is because, well, what does this country do for me? Why would I fight for this country that doesn't respect me? That actually wants to take everything from me. And as a man, not just that, wants to humiliate me on the way. Why would men just say, all right, you know what? I'll just take this. I'll take the hits. Bring it on. And then when the time comes, I'll be ready to show you how needed I was. I get it. I understand that. Now, I'm not advocating for that. I don't. I think as a guy, when the time comes, you should be ready to do the right thing. And I'll get onto that a little bit more. I'll get onto that more a little bit later on. But I understand why a lot of guys think that way. And unfortunately, I think that most guys feel that way now. And men, we're pretty simple in what we want. From a society, we want two major things. I've spoken about this before. And it relates to my other videos, like why are men giving up and checking out and so on. Two major things that we want to feel generally from our society, from our culture. We want to feel that we're useful and we want to feel respected. Now, the last part, respected, I think we can get away with not feeling that level of respect that we actually want. We could just about collectively say, all right, fine, as long as we feel useful. But the way of the world now, the way of the West, ever since the introduction of the birth control pill, women in the workplace, equality, feminism, yada, 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 most guys, the average guys, don't feel, they don't feel that level, like they don't feel as worthwhile anymore. They don't feel their sense of place in the world. They're unsure of their sense of place. They don't know what society expects from them anymore. We used to know. We used to have very specific roles. There were very specific gender roles. Men went to work. They provided for the family. You know, before, like, the economy went crazy, right? A man could provide for his family and his kids, his wife and his kids on a one wage. Now, I mean, that's unless you're balling, unless you're making six figures, which how many people are, it's not going to happen. Guys aren't feeling as worthy, and women are saying, and they're promoting this, saying, we don't need a man. We can take care of ourselves and all this, and we can provide for ourselves. We don't need no man. Protection for a man. So, what they don't understand. They don't know their place anymore. You're taking that out. And then along the way, as they've done that, in some weird way, well, I mean, it's feminism. Feminism isn't really about, I mean, it's meant to be about equality and so on. I'm not so sure about that. Looks to me it's more like a power play, but potentially, again, not going to confirm that or deny it, but along the way, it also became about disrespecting men. In a way to build women up, you're going to have to pull men down at the same time. And so men, they don't feel as useful, and they feel disrespected. And you put all that together, and what are you left with? You're left with guys that want to check out, don't want to help, don't want to contribute. And when shit really does hit the fan, and there's people that need help in those moments, they won't do it. In fact, there's so many guys now that they wouldn't even they're not apathetic, they actually want to see it burn. They actually want to see it all crumble. Wrong hole. But like I said, I'm not advocating for that. I'm not condoning that mindset. I think at the end of the day, what we should be doing is, look, we should be ready. If shit does hit the fan, we should be ready to do the right thing. When people need help, we should be helping. I think I've spoken about that before. Masculinity is help, is service. But we should also be calling out the disrespect. We shouldn't just take it on the chin. Again, I think this is part of a psyop. You know, just don't complain as a man. Be quiet. Shut up and get on with it. Do your job. Complaining's for the women, blah, blah, blah. No. Call that crap out. Call the disrespect out. Call the hypocrisy out as much as you can. Online, offline, in the workplace, with your friends, whatever it is, whatever ways you can. Be diplomatic, be respectful. You don't want to just go in and just insult everyone, because again, that just makes things worse. But I think we should be calling it out, and we should be looking at the bigger picture, looking holistically, having these conversations, saying, wait a minute, this isn't the way you should be thinking and saying and talking about men, because this is going to lead to this, and this is a bad outcome, and we need to be working together, yada, 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 whatever it is that conversations need to be had. I think we should be having those conversations, calling it out. And maybe you don't feel like you fit in. Maybe you don't feel like this society is for you. And that's okay. Because there's people to protect sometimes, you know? And maybe that future generations, how to say this really? You know, I just think we should be ready to do the right thing. We should be having the conversations. Try to be changing course on the disrespect and so on. And I think as well, society it's mostly feminine, right? I said society is feminine. When I mention society, it's mostly women. It's governments that are disrespecting men. Governments will placate and pander to the wants and needs and women and everything else. But we as men, and especially if you're more aware, you're taking the red pill on a few things, I think you should realize we should cut a little bit of slack. We should cut these women a little bit of slack. Cut culture a little bit of slack, because what hope do they have? They're indoctrinated. They're indoctrinated at every corner. They're brainwashed all the time. Women are brainwashed to disrespect us all the time. Look at it. I've lost count of the amount of TV shows, movies, adverts, books, magazines, you name it, social media posts where the guy, even the man of the house, the family man, is just some mumbling, bumbling, useless buffoon, right? And men are taking the piss out of them, disrespected and cheated on and all of this stuff. And women are raised up, and most Western women don't identify themselves as feminists, but they hold so many feminist ideas, they don't even realize it. And so what hope do they have? And so we have to look at that and go, oh, Jesus, it's no wonder you feel this way when you're just bombarded with this type of messaging. And on some level, as much as we want them to take responsibility, as much as we want to change the discourse, we've got to understand it, that Jesus Christ, they haven't got much of a chance. They don't stand much of a chance here. So that's going to help us. That's going to help us to understand the situation, be ready to change the discourse, and be ready for when shit does hit the fan. But yeah, I don't know what you think, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one, but it's important. It's important to know this. We shouldn't just shut up, be quiet, deal with it, get on with it, be ready when the time is. I feel that's part of I feel that's part of what they want us to do. Just deal with it, just accept it. Because if you're passive for long enough, eventually you just give up. There's not enough people. There's not enough men out there pushing a better message. That eventually it just becomes. Men just become like this societal punching bag. Numb to it. And that's not what we're about. We need to push back in that regard. Change the discourse. Self-respect. It's about self-respect too. Now you have to be worthy of self-respect for yourself. You have to respect yourself. That's another thing. Like, you can't just fall into the caricature that they're talking about. You can't become that useless, bumbling, mumbling idiot that they say we are. You have to be somebody of respect in order for people to even listen in the first place. And if there's enough of us doing that, I think we'd have a chance. We'd have a chance. I'm not saying it would happen, but we'd have a chance. But then look at it, we're at a dangerous time, because like I said, there's a lot of guys who've been disrespectful for too long. There's a lot of guys that wouldn't do what would be needed and want it all to burn. And that worries me. So get in the comments and let's keep this conversation going. I want to hear your thoughts on this one. And if you're new here, I really appreciate like, subscribe, share this about. This is important. These are important topics. These are important conversations, and these need to be spread. People need to add to this. Smarter people than myself need to talk about this. Add on, react, share it with their friends. That's how we can keep the hope of turning the ship around alive. Cheers, guys.